Hello and welcome to The Top Story, a podcast with the headlines of the day from our correspondents around the world. I'm Tian Yu. Coming up in this edition, the South Korea military has fired shots south of the military demarcation line after North Korea exploded parts of the roads connecting the two countries. Chinese carmakers are attending the Paris Auto Show despite the proposed EU tariffs on electric vehicles manufactured in China. Hurricane Milton has claimed at least 23 lives in the United States, with damage estimates approaching $100 billion. We begin in Asia. The South Korean military has conducted counter-fire operations after North Korea blew up sections of the roads linking the two countries. Both incidents came after North Korea's Kim Jong-un convened a top national security meeting on Monday. Earlier, Pyongyang announced it would cut off all road and railway links to South Korea. Jack Barton has more from Seoul.
No one on the south side was harmed by the explosions. We have since seen footage of the explosions. They were fairly limited in size, but still blowing up the roads on the east coast and also the road north of here to the former industrial zone and the main rail link to the degree that they would now be completely inoperable. The Joint Chiefs of Staff say those roads had essentially been cut on the DPRK side since August when the street lights had been taken down. They say mines had been put in place, anti-tank devices had been put in place. But what we've seen over the past few days is screens put up and then the explosions carried out. Pyongyang has activated its artillery along the demilitarized zone for the past few days. It's put all of those artillery units, thousands of guns, on standby for operation. And of course, Seoul is within range of all of those guns. South Korea in turn has put its artillery on standby, and there appears to be some sort of mobilization of troops up there.
That was Jack Barton reporting on Korean Peninsula tensions. More than 30,000 enterprises from home and abroad are attending the China Import and Export Fair. Better known as the Canton Fair, the event in southern China has three phases, with the first focusing on the digital and green future of global trade. Nearly 4,600 companies will hold exhibitions for the first time during this edition of the Canton Fair. 90% of the world's top 250 retailers are expected to attend, marking a 24% increase from a year ago. Xu Hua has more from Guangzhou.
The Canton Fair, known as China's #1 fair, is a barometer of China's foreign trade and a symbol of the country's openness. Established in 1957, the fair has been held in Guangzhou every spring and autumn for a staggering 135 sessions. And this year's theme is serving high-quality development and, promoting high-level opening up. The fair has a 55 exhibition area in over 1 million square meters, and over 30,000 enterprises are expected to attend in person. Here, I'm very honored to be joined by Mr. Mohammed Azouz and from an Egyptian appliances company. So how do you feel about this year's event, and what have you brought to the fair?
We are very happy to be in Canton Fair this year, as this is not the first year for us. We are here for 17 years now, participating as an exhibitor. Canton Fair is like one of the biggest events in home appliances sector. So we are very keen to participate in this fair every year. We meet our customers, we meet our suppliers, so we are very happy to meet them. For what we brought to the fair this year, we brought our products. We have new product lines. Every year we bring it to participate with the fair and get orders from our suppliers for these new lines.
I know you have a very busy morning talking with your Chinese partners. So
yes.
How do you think the potential of the Chinese market?
Actually, we consider China as a country, as a partner for us. So we buy from China most of our components. So we have a new approach in our company in Egypt. Just we establish joint venture companies with our company in Egypt and the Chinese supplier for components. So China is a partner for us. And our potential growth in Egypt relying on the Chinese suppliers. So you are a strategic partner.
Okay, thank you. Good luck to you.
Thank you.
So, Besides those coming to Guangzhou in person, there are over 48,000 enterprises are participating online.
That was Xu Hua at the Canton Fair. In Europe, several Chinese carmakers are present at the Paris Auto Show despite an EU decision to impose stiff tariffs on Chinese-manufactured electric vehicles. Global carmakers have also brought their new models to the car gathering. Ross Cullen has more.
Well, this is the 90th edition of the Paris Auto Show, but this year there are some wider political roadblocks impacting the exhibition. That's after the approval a little bit earlier this month by Brussels of imposing new tariffs on China-made electric vehicles. Now, one of the Chinese car manufacturers showcasing their latest models here in Paris has said that they are exploring the possibility of local production, manufacturing here in Europe to try to avoid those new taxes which have been approved by Brussels.
We've been waiting a year for this decision to happen. Discussions and talks have been going on for a year. It's only going to speed up the process of setting up our factories in Europe. This was not planned before, so the plant will be built. Europe will have wanted it.
The French president attended the show in person on Monday, and Emmanuel Macron was one of the European politicians who argued in favour of introducing the new duties on Chinese electric vehicles, France siding with Ireland and Italy among those who voted for the new tariffs. Beijing, after the EU vote, reacted saying it was non-compliant, unreasonable and unfair. Now, aside from all the politics, there are lots of new cars that are making their debuts here at the show. The B10 from Chinese manufacturer Leapmotor, new electric vehicles from Audi, from Skoda, 2 new Minis from BMW, and domestically the focus is on the C4 and the C5 from Citroën, and Renault are unveiling no fewer than 10 new models.
That was Ross Cullen on highlights from the Paris Auto Show. On the Middle East, the United Nations Security Council has stressed the need to respect the safety and security of peacekeeping personnel and UN premises. The Security Council called on all parties to abide by international humanitarian law. The peacekeeping force in Lebanon has come under attack in several recent incidents, with the United Nations accusing Israeli troops of firing at the peacekeepers' headquarters and positions. Jody Jacobs reports from the UN headquarters in New York.
Attacks on peacekeepers may constitute a war crime. That's according to the UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres, responding to the latest attack on UN peacekeepers in southern Lebanon. There have been many reported attacks on UN peacekeeping bases, the latest on Sunday when 2 Israeli Defense Force tanks destroyed the main gate of a UN post in Ramya, near the Israeli border, a UN-created boundary called the Blue Line.
On Sunday, the mission detected 1,557 instances of firing across the Blue Line. That's the highest number in one day since October 8th, 2023. You will have seen various statements issued by UNIFIL this weekend, and also a statement issued on Sunday on behalf of the Secretary General, in which he reiterated that UNIFIL's personnel and its premises must never be targeted. He called on all parties, including the IDF, to refrain from any and all actions that put our peacekeepers at risk.
Israel alleges that Hezbollah had fired around 25 rockets and missiles in the last month from sites located near UN sites. It has accused the armed group of exploiting their proximity to UN forces. The Security Council met behind closed doors to discuss its 2004 resolution that calls for the respect of the sovereignty, territorial integrity and political independence of Lebanon under the sole and exclusive authority of the government of Lebanon. Many council members reiterated their call for Israel to end its bombardment of Lebanon and to withdraw its ground forces, and that Hezbollah must stop firing into Israel. UNIFIL has around 10,000 peacekeepers from 50 countries deployed in Lebanon and roughly 800 civilian staff. The peacekeepers are holding their positions despite calls from Israel's Prime Minister for the UN to evacuate its troops from combat areas in Lebanon. Only the UN Security Council can effectively decide their withdrawal. The non-permanent members of the Council in a statement have expressed deep concern about the attacks and have called on all parties to respect the territories of the peacekeepers. And as violence continues, the United Nations says it fears Lebanon might become another Gaza.
That was Jody Jacobs reporting. Finally, in the Americas, days after Hurricane Milton struck Florida, residents are still trying to recover. The storm has killed at least 23 people, with damage estimates approaching $100 billion. Nisa Soda Perez has more from Miami.
Floodwaters have not yet receded in areas of Florida's west coast, where Hurricane Milton made landfall last Wednesday. The storm's death toll has ticked up too, as evacuees return to assess the damage and face the aftermath of yet another hurricane. Rescue agencies warn that ongoing flooding could slow the progress of post-disaster relief efforts. Days after the storm, the Tampa Police Department continued rescue operations for individuals trapped in flooded vehicles. As of Monday, nearly 400,000 people remain without power, down from a peak of 3 million. Fuel shortages are also complicating recovery efforts, with fuel crucial for operating generators, vehicles, and charging devices. Many gas stations are still closed due to power outages. In response, Florida's governor has established fuel depots.
You also have a lot of gas stations that even if they have fuel, may not be able to get the power back on. So we've taken on a fuel mission. We've opened 3 fuel depots so people can come, fill up, get, I think it's like 10 gallons a tank that you can get. We have one here in Bradenton. We opened one in St. Petersburg. And then we opened one in Hillsborough County in Plant City, which had a lot of flooding.
Hurricane Milton marks the 5th hurricane to impact the U.S. Gulf Coast this year. Of the 5 hurricanes, 3 directly impacted Florida. As residents navigate the aftermath of Hurricane Milton, they're on high alert, closely monitoring a new tropical system developing in the Atlantic and moving westward.
That was Nisa Soda Perez reporting on Hurricane Milton's aftermath. Now recapping today's headlines. The South Korea military has fired shots south of the military demarcation line after North Korea exploded parts of the roads connecting the two countries. Chinese carmakers are attending the Paris Auto Show despite the proposed EU tariffs on electric vehicles manufactured in China. Hurricane Milton has claimed at least 23 lives in the United States, with damage estimates approaching $100 billion. And that's it for this edition of The Top Story, a podcast that brings you world headlines every weekday. For more news in politics, business, sports, and culture, you can subscribe to The Beijing Hour, a 1-hour podcast news magazine program. We welcome and appreciate all ratings and reviews. I'm Tian Yu. Thank you for listening.